only reason I'm saying that Donovan McNabb shares blame, even though he's not wrong about what he was saying in terms of the impact of T.O.'s distractions. T.O. became a distraction because he was encouraged by his agent at the time, Drew Rosenhaus, to be a distraction to get let go by the Philadelphia Eagles so he could get picked up by somebody else to get the money that the Eagles were not going to give him. And the reason the Eagles didn't give him the money was because, in T.O.'s eyes, the man for the franchise was Donovan McNabb, and Donovan McNabb would not vouch for me because he says he didn't vouch for any player because he never got involved in that stuff, but ended up doing it for Brian Westbrook
according
anyway.
to your logic,
that's the issue.
So according to
it's
your
not
logic.
Hold on, whoa, stop. No. We all reported on it. Go back to the archives of the Philadelphia Inquirer back in 2014. We all reported that.
Okay, I'm not disputing the facts. According to my logic, based on those facts, if the question is McNabb right to blame T.O., then I would say no based on those facts. That if you are clearly an elite player, you were the best performer in the Super Bowl, and the quarterback tells you I don't do that, and then he turns around and does it, then T.O.'s going to try and force his way out. And if you're McNabb, you're going to have to deal with it.
Max,
you're the leader of the team.
Fine, but here's the question to you, and it's just a question. My question to you would be, what about those? Because there were a lot of people in the locker room that felt exactly the way you just expressed, Max. But there were other people in the locker room that looked at the temperament of T.O., not just his game. And they said, why should Donovan stick out his neck to help that guy? What do you say to that?
This is what I say. What you're talking about, forget the exact details, is a divided locker room. That falls on the leader of the franchise. That is Donovan McNabb. You want to say it's the front office and the coach, that's fine. It is also the quarterback.
No, because the locker room wasn't divided until you introduced Weapon X or Chemical X or whatever you want to call it. The locker room wasn't divided prior to T.O., and the locker room was divided after T.O. entered for a year, 2 years if you ask people in that locker room after T.O. So you can't blame the division of the locker room on Donovan McNabb when before T.O. ever entered, the locker room was never divided. And then after T.O. departs several years later, the locker room was divided. Not Weapon X being Brian Dawkins. But the locker room was divided because of T.O. That's the issue at hand. The locker room wasn't divided on Donovan McNabb. You can't put that on Donovan McNabb.
Emmanuel, even if T.O. was the problem, just speak on the code. Is it wrong for Donovan McNabb to come out later and publicly embarrass him with this information, especially at the quarterback leadership, usually a classy kind of position to do that? Can you say if that's still okay for him to do that?
I wouldn't have done it because, like Max said, what's the point? Y'all both grown now. Y'all both grown. You're taking shots, and furthermore, you're really not going to win if you're taking a shot at a Hall of Famer. Let's just call a spade a spade. If you're taking a shot at T.O., to Max's point, played out there on a broken fibula, and I believe he had torn cartilage in his ankle, and you come out there after 6 weeks and you ball out in the Super Bowl, that's a battle that you're probably not going to win. So McNabb didn't need to say it, but McNabb took shots from T.O. while they were playing together.
It's like a coach. It's almost like this is how I see it, Stephen A.
Well,
again,
the other side,
let me just be very clear about this.
The other side to it is that why T.O.'s minding his business. He didn't say anything.
Correct.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. Again, let me just reiterate. I'm a McNabb fan. I'm saying I don't see the qualitative difference between him and Elway, who's in the discussion top 3 for a lot of people ever, except Elway got a running game when he was past his prime for 2 seasons. If McNabb was in that situation, maybe he'd have 2 Super Bowls. It's not like I'm down on McNabb. What I am saying is it's like a coach complaining after the fact, because if you're the quarterback and the leader and you want to be remembered as one of the greats, which I think McNabb was, it's like a coach saying, well, we could have done this, but I had this disruptive player, blah, blah. Deal with it. Figure it out, brother. You can't say one disruptive play. And by the way, if you're going to tell him something, even on the facts, Stephen A., if you're going to tell him, I don't intervene, but you do intervene for someone else, guess what? It's going to be bad.
I got a question for you, Stephen A. You know how they say when you see two people... When you see 2 people fighting, sometimes you can't tell who's the fool. Who comes out looking worse in this very public back and forth between the 2 of them?
Well, Donovan looks worse because he instigated it. And Donovan also looks worse because you have to ask yourself, what was the motivation behind it. Now, Donovan's my man, and I love him, and I wish he was still on this show because, damn it, he did an exceptional job for us when he was on the air for us. Let's be clear. But the other side to this is Donovan is also a relatively sensitive dude from the standpoint that he's done a lot for his career. He deserves Hall of Fame consideration at the very least. We talk about people and we talk about Carson Wentz, certainly not you, Max, but so many of us talk about Carson Wentz in a way that gives fodder to those who believe that, you know what, he's judged in a less harsher fashion than
No
Donovan
doubts.
McNabb was judged.
That's one of the reasons I go with Carson Wentz.
Hold it, Max. Who knows whether or not that was a motivation for Donovan to be speaking out, because as people reflect on his career, he's probably saying, do y'all have any idea what I was dealing with
Right,
over
that's a
here?
good point.
To sort of explain.
That's a good
and
point. Stephen A., in other
justify
words,
what transpired.
Stephen A., in other words, sometimes he has to play his own defense attorney, or he kind of gets underrated by the facts of history. I get that. I do get that, but it does come out as defensive.
Think about this for 1 second, though. The last thought is T.O., superstar T.O., got suspended for talking bad about Donovan McNabb. Got suspended for talking bad about Donovan McNabb. If you don't think Donovan McNabb is still thinking about that years later,
No, it was the whole
you're
organization,
lying to
Nacho.
yourself.
It was the whole It was the whole organization. It wasn't just Donovan McNabb. Remember, Drew Rosenhaus said you got to get out of your contract. So T.O. was doing all of that for the sole express purpose of being as much of a distraction as possible so he could get out of his deal with the Eagles and get a new contract somewhere else. He couldn't pull it off unless the Eagles let him go, so he had to incentivize them to let him go. It was an orchestrated attack to get out of his contract. And no one was safe because he wanted his money.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.